Aloha and welcome to this module on development environments. I think this is one of the most important modules of the semester in a lot of ways because development environments are really ground zero in the quest to become a productive software engineer, because development environments are kind of the first things you touch when you're producing code. So they're vitally important, and they can multiply your productivity by a significant factor if you pick the right IDE and you know how to use it effectively for the kinds of technologies that you're developing. So it's vitally important to always be looking at the landscape of IDEs, seeing what's out there, thinking about the technology stack that you're using, and then picking the appropriate IDE for what you want to accomplish. In this class, we're going to use an IDE called IntelliJ, and for many years I was using Eclipse. Over the past, I guess, year, I've switched over to IntelliJ because we're able to get a university license for it, and I think it's a good choice. It's just so kind of far ahead of Eclipse in a lot of ways that I think it's good for you guys to have the experience with a real state-of-the-art IDE. There's some other ones that are pretty good out there, for doing kind of simple HTML, CSS. Atom is really nice, but as a generic IDE for a lot of different kinds of development, I think you're going to find IntelliJ is really great. So that's the one that we're going to be using. The other thing I want to point out right at the beginning is that you might be a wizard with Emacs or a wizard with Eclipse, or maybe not a wizard, but you've just used them for a long time and that's the one you feel comfortable with. Okay, I totally get that. I'm an Emacs wizard. I started using it back in the early 80s, 1983. Okay, I've written probably several 100,000 lines of Emacs Lisp code in my career. So I get it when you are very comfortable with one kind of environment and somebody or something tells you need to use a different development environment, and in the back of your mind you're thinking, well, as soon as that person leaves, I'm just going to go use the one I'm comfortable with because that's going to make me more productive. Okay, I just want to say, don't give in to that temptation. I know the temptation is there, but for one semester I want you to suspend your disbelief, dedicate yourself to using IntelliJ IDEA, dedicate yourself to getting over that initial learning curve, because for sure, when you first start using IntelliJ IDEA, you're going to be less productive than you would have been in the IDE that you're most comfortable with, okay? And maybe at first, for the first 5-10 minutes or 3 to 5 hours, you're going to think, IntelliJ IDEA, this sucks. I really wish I was using Atom or Emacs or whatever. And it's that my preferred environment is so much better. Okay? Just trust me. Give this environment time and get over the learning curve. Okay? At the end of the semester, at that point, after you've really given this environment a good space of time to become actually quite familiar with it, maybe at the end of the semester you'll say, okay, you know what? I still think that I'm going to go back to Emacs for this kind of work that I'm doing in the future. That's okay, but it will be based upon actually having an in-depth understanding of this other IDE. Okay, but superficially trying it for a couple of minutes and then deciding to bail on it, that's not going to do you any good. And in fact, in this class, it's going to penalize you, because as we go down through the class, you'll be learning more and more things, or I'll be covering more and more things that IntelliJ IDEA does very well. You'll be hard-pressed to duplicate the functionality in your other environment. And furthermore, I will be testing you on things that require IntelliJ IDEA, and if you can't demonstrate you can do it, then you're just not going to get credit. So I'm kind of demanding that you give this IDE a shot for this semester, and then after the semester's over, you make your own decisions about what you want to do next. But I think the experience of having learned a different IDE will be valuable to you, even if you go back to your old one, because ultimately you'll probably want to evolve, and the more IDEs you've learned to use well, the less afraid you'll be about switching to a new technology in the future when it becomes appropriate to do so. The other thing to know about IntelliJ is that they have this product called Webstorm, which is just kind of a simplified version of IntelliJ IDEA for JavaScript and HTML development. What you're getting is a license for IntelliJ IDEA, which includes everything that Webstorm has in it, plus a bunch of other stuff as well. So it can be, kind of parameterized or tailored to do Java or C++ or all this other kind of stuff that Webstorm doesn't. But in addition, it can be tailored to use JavaScript. So I'm going to point you at documentation for Webstorm, but just know that with very minor differences, whatever documentation you see for Webstorm is going to apply to IntelliJ IDEA, because the IDEA is just the superset, of the Webstorm framework. So, you're going to see video tutorials that talk about Webstorm, but it will just work exactly the same in IntelliJ IDEA. The other thing to note is that, and this was especially hard for me, was coming from an Emacs background, IntelliJ uses different keyboard bindings. Really important that you use the keyboard bindings that are the default keyboard bindings for IntelliJ. Don't change the bindings to Emacs or change the bindings to Vim or whatever, because all that's going to do is lobotomize the IDE. Okay, it won't work. All these great features that are available via key bindings will no longer be there for you, and all of a sudden you'll be thinking, this IDE sucks. Well, it doesn't suck. It's just because you changed the keyboard bindings to something where the great features are hidden. So don't do that as well. And again, I feel your pain. It was horrible for me to have to teach my fingers how to use different keystrokes, but at the end of the day, it's worth it. Okay. So there's two experiences for this. One is you're going to install Java because IntelliJ IDEA needs Java, and it's a good thing to have a recent version of Java on your system. And then there's an experience for actually installing the system. I'll send a code in an email so that you can, with a license key, so you can unlock it, and that's good till next year. So you have a good amount of time to play around with this. Okay, that's development environments. Enjoy the screencasts. Enjoy getting started with IntelliJ IDEA. Just think of it like a journey. I'm not expecting you to be perfect in the environment. Initially, it's going to take several weeks for you to start to feel comfortable with it, but just kind of plug along, because I really expect that at the end of the day, once you understand all the features that this environment has, you'll be really excited to use it on a lot of different programming projects.